I have been on a bread baking journey for the past couple of years, and in today's video, I want to show you all how I make my sourdough bread. There's so many different methods and ways of baking sourdough, and when I first started baking bread, I was very confused by all the conflicting opinions and information. So today, I really want to show you a very simplified version of artisan sourdough, as well as my favorite technique of how to keep your starter alive and bubbly and healthy. Okay, so the first step in making bread is creating a leaven. The leaven is what makes your bread rise. To mix the leaven, I am using 20 grams of my sourdough starter, 100 grams of water, and 100 grams of flour. And I'll mix that together really well. It's 7 p.m. in the evening right now. My kitchen is colder because it's winter, so this should be ready in the morning to bake with. If it was summer, I would probably only use 10 grams of my sourdough starter. If you don't have starter, you can buy dehydrated starter online or get it from a friend or local bakery. So it's the next day at 6:30 a.m. right now. I'm going to mix my flour and water for my dough. I am mixing 1,000 grams of bread flour with 750 grams of 95-degree water to create a 75% hydration dough. I'm gonna mix the flour and water really well together and let it rest for 2 hours. This is called an autolyse. This is a long time for a traditional autolyse, but it helps to reduce the amount of time spent kneading and stretching that you need to do. This is a very hands-off sourdough recipe. It only requires about 30 minutes total of hands-on work. Doing a longer autolyse like this also starts the gluten development naturally and allows the flour to fully hydrate. Okay, so it's 8:30 now. It's been 2 hours, and now I'm going to add my sourdough starter that has doubled in size since the evening. I am adding 200 grams of sourdough starter to the flour-water mixture, and I'll just use wet hands to mix the starter evenly into the dough. And look how extensible this dough is already. I haven't done any kneading yet, and it's already starting to develop really good strength and structure. This is from the long autolyse. After fully incorporating the starter, I'll let this rest for another hour. After an hour, it is 9:30 a.m. I am adding my salt. I am adding 24 grams of salt. This is a lot of salt. I like a very salty bread, but only add 18 to 20 grams if you don't like too much salt in your bread. And I'll add a splash of water to help incorporate the salt evenly into the bread. Again, I want you to notice I have not done any stretch and folds yet, but already the dough has a lot of structure in it. It has a strong gluten network already developing, so I won't have to knead this dough very much. After adding the salt, I'll let this rest for another hour. Okay, so now we are on the first round of stretch and folds. It's 10:30 a.m. and I'm just going to pull the dough up and then fold it over to the middle of the dough. I'll do this 4 times, once on each corner, and then I will fold the dough around itself, kind of into a ball, creating a little tension on top, and this is how I will leave it to rest, with the seam side down and the soft side up. You want to let it rest for another hour, and at 11:30 a.m., I will do the final stretch, which is a lamination stretch. You want to wet your countertop and then with wet hands, place the dough onto the counter and start to stretch the dough out. Stretch it very large. It should be very extensible now and easy to stretch. You want to pull it out into a large rectangle, as large as it will go without tearing it. You should be able to stretch it so far that light can shine through the dough. This is called the window test because the dough is so extensible. It's basically like a window. Then you're going to fold the dough, taking one side and folding it into the center. Then take the other side and fold it on top to the very edge, creating 3 layers. Then take the bottom and fold it up to the center. Then take the top and fold it over that to the very bottom. Flip the whole thing upside down so that the smooth side is facing up, and then place it back into your bowl to let it rise for around 4 to 6 hours until it's almost doubled in size. Not quite doubled in size. This rest is called the bulk fermentation. And while we wait for it to rest, let's talk about BetterHelp, who's sponsoring today's video. Every January, I feel like there's this pressure from society to suddenly become a new person overnight. Like you're supposed to be super motivated, taking action, fixing everything, and constantly moving forward just because it's a new year. And I think that's why therapy can be such a powerful way to start the year. Not because you're behind or broken, but because having real support and tools can help you let go of what you've been carrying and genuinely feel lighter as you step into 2026. If you've been wanting to try therapy, BetterHelp makes it so simple to start. You just fill out a short questionnaire about your goals and preferences, and BetterHelp will match you with a licensed therapist. To get started, just click the link in the description, or you can go to betterhelp.com/Isabel to get 10% off your first month of therapy and let BetterHelp support you in feeling lighter in 2026. Okay, so while we wait for our dough to rise, I want to quickly show you how I feed my starter. So I like to get rid of almost everything inside the jar. Just leave behind about a tablespoon of starter, and then I will feed that tiny amount of starter with 100 grams of flour and 100 grams of water. Using this little starter means you only have to feed it once every 24 hours. It also means that it really prevents your starter from getting too sour and over fermented, which is a common mistake with sourdough. Okay, so it's around 4 p.m. My dough is done rising, and now I'm going to shape it. First, I'm gonna lightly dust my countertop with flour and then place all of my dough onto the counter. I'll use a bench scraper to cut the dough roughly in half. You can be exact and weigh each ball so they are the same. I don't really mind if my loaves of bread are different sizes. And then you're just gonna roughly form each piece of dough into a ball. And then kind of like push and pull it on your countertop to create tension on the top. This also doesn't have to be perfect. This is not your final shape. You want to cover the dough with a tea towel and then let it rest for 30 minutes to an hour. This is called the bench rest. So it's been an hour. I wait longer in the winter because it's colder in my kitchen. And now it's finally time to shape the dough. Lightly dust the top of each dough ball with flour and then flip the dough over so the seam side is facing up. Pull the top of the dough up, stretching it slightly, and then fold it into the center. And then you're gonna wanna take the bottom edge, pulling it slightly, and then fold it over the top of the 2 layers. This is called a book fold, and then lightly press on all 3 layers to try to get rid of as much air as you can. Now take your dough and from the bottom, roll the dough all the way up to the top, trying to create tension on the top of your loaf as you go, using your thumbs. This is definitely like more of a technique that you kind of have to practice, and push and pull the dough a little bit to create even more tension. You can press the ends together as well to seal it. Then lightly dust your banneton with flour, scoop up the dough and place it seam side up in your banneton. Cover your banneton with plastic or fabric, and we're gonna place that into the fridge overnight to proof. I keep my fridge at 38 degrees. I think this is a perfect temperature to continue a bit of fermentation, but not too much where it over ferments. Okay, so the next day, I will preheat my oven to 450 degrees with the Dutch ovens inside of it. And then I'll take my bannetons out of the fridge, flip the loaves of dough onto a piece of parchment paper, seam side down, and then using a razor blade, I will score the dough down the side of the loaf. When you score your dough, you want to cut it at an angle. This helps to make the dough rise more and it creates a better ear in the loaf. And then just place the dough into the Dutch oven with a couple of ice cubes and bake with the lid on for 30 minutes, then remove the lid and bake for another 15 to 20 minutes. Look at this loaf, you guys. It's like bigger than my head. So there's a couple of really important things that I want to talk to you about. If you're trying to make the best sourdough bread, there are two things that you really need to focus on. And that is, number one, the most important thing, keeping your starter healthy. Keeping your starter healthy is the most important thing. That's what's gonna make your bread rise. That's what's gonna give it life. Healthy starter equals good bread. So many times people come to me and they're like, Isabel, like friends and family will come to me and be like, Isabel, my bread is so bad. What am I doing wrong? I'll go over to their house and the first thing I do is I take their starter and I smell it. And I'm gonna say, like, 95% of the time, it's just way too sour. They're not getting rid of enough starter when they're feeding it. I genuinely, when I feed my starter, I scrape it completely almost clean. There's like 1 tablespoon left of starter in there because you really don't want it to get too sour, too over fermented. You want it to smell like a sweet, sour yogurt. Oftentimes, I would say, when I'm smelling people's starters, it gets too fermented and it smells alcoholic. If your starter is starting to smell alcoholic, it's way too fermented, but that's okay. You can still save it. All you need to do is just scrape the jar clean. You can even start a whole new jar, start a fresh jar, put just a tablespoon in the next jar, feed it 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of water, and that will kind of refresh it. Obviously that's a small amount of starter, so it's going to take a while for it to double in size. That's also why I like feeding it that ratio, because I only like to feed my starter once a day. I find that anything more, it just becomes too like cumbersome in my life. I don't want to be feeding my starter twice a day, so I only start with a tiny bit of starter, just a teaspoon or a tablespoon, just a little bit. And then you can feed it, and then like the next day, it'll be ready to bake bread with. That's my favorite method of keeping my starter healthy. That's the first thing. Second thing, using a good quality flour. There's not that many ingredients in sourdough bread. It's flour, water, and salt. So having good quality ingredients is very important. Get a good quality organic bread flour. Bread flour is flour with a higher protein content, around 14 to 16% protein. That will give your bread structure, that will give it rise. It's really important that you find a good quality bread flour to use for your sourdough. Anyways, you guys, that is my 2 most important tips. Healthy starter, good quality flour. Try to find an organic one. Non-organic flour in the US is sprayed with glyphosate, which is super inflammatory, bad for our guts. We're trying to get healthy here with baking our own bread. So the best thing that we can do is find ideally a local grain mill. I get my flour here locally in my area from a mill that's not too far away. I'll link below where I get my flour. I love the flour I use. Probably if you're in another state, it will be very expensive to ship the flour that I use since it is local to my area. But I'll link it anyways in case you're interested, or maybe you're in Washington State, then you can get this flour because it is the best flour. I've used like every single brand of flour and I love this flour so much. So good quality flour, try to find a local mill in your area. Keep your starter healthy, and I promise you guys, you will have beautiful, vibrant, bouncy sourdough in no time. Anyways, to catch my breath, I'm like spewing words out like a mile a minute. Thank you so much for watching this video, and yeah, I'll see you all next week. Okay, bye-bye. If you want all of this information in a easy to read format, I have written it up and you can download it for free through my website. Just click the link in the description to find that.